Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold bilateral meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Kazan today. Now, both leaders are in Kazan to attend the 16th BRICS Summit, and this will be the first meeting between the leaders since India and China agreed on non-hostile patrolling along the line of actual control. A day earlier, Foreign Secretary of India Vikram Misri confirmed the meeting to WION The World.
Siddhant from WION. Sir, any possibility of a bilateral between the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President, given that there is a certain level of thaw with the agreement on patrolling?
I can confirm that there will be a bilateral meeting held between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping tomorrow, 23rd of October, on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. The exact time and other logistics are being worked out, but the meeting will take place tomorrow.
Earlier, Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with Iranian President Modi-Pezeshkian, where both the leaders raised concern over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and called for an immediate ceasefire in the region. The leaders also agreed to continue their cooperation in various multilateral forums, including the BRICS and the SCO. Prime Minister Modi also held a bilateral with Russian President Vladimir Putin, where both the leaders talked on multiple issues, including political, economic, defense, energy, people-to-people ties, and the ongoing conflict with Ukraine. The Prime Minister reiterated that the dialogue and diplomacy were the way forward in resolving conflicts, is ready to offer all possible help to end the conflict. He also invited Russian President Vladimir Putin to visit India next for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. This is PM Modi's second visit to Russia in the last 3 months.
В Казань на саммит БРИКС. Сегодня мы вместе примем участие в церемонии открытия саммита. Затем предстоит общение лидеров.
And for more on this, we are being joined by Siddhant Sibal live from Kazan in Russia. Siddhant, a lot of development has taken place between India and China over the last couple of days. Now, this bilateral meet is being considered a turning point for both India and China. Tell us about the significance of this and also tell us what all we can expect from this meet.
Well, clearly it will be Kazan thaw between India and China later today. There is obviously an official confirmation between by the Foreign Secretary between India and China. And this meeting coming after a gap of 5 years. The last time both the Indian Prime Minister and the Chinese President met was in 2019. And essentially thereafter we saw the Galwan incident in which India lost 20 of its soldiers. China confirmed the loss of 4 of its soldiers. Since then, India has taken actions when it comes to scrutinizing the Chinese visa applications of businessmen and also banning apps, the Chinese apps as well. But all in all, it looks like because of patient diplomacy led by the Indian NSA and the Indian External Affairs Minister, there is a breakthrough. Earlier this week, we saw how essentially an agreement on patrolling was agreed on. And thereafter, the Indian Foreign Secretary not only announced it, the Indian External Affairs Minister gave details about what is the situation on the ground. And now today's meeting will help in a further positive direction for India-China relationship.
Siddhant, you mentioned the patrolling arrangements that have been reached upon. We've had a statement from India's External Affairs Minister and also the Foreign Secretary. China, on the other hand, has said that the two sides have reached a solution, quote unquote, on relevant matters, which China views positively. It did not, however, mention the patrolling arrangements. You also mentioned the Galwan incident, which happened only a few months after their meeting in Mahabalipuram in 2019. So how do you view the statement by China? Do you expect further progress in this direction in the meet today?
Well, essentially, we know that the Indian side has said the situation will return to pre-2020. We know that when it comes to what happened on the ground, the Galwan incident happened. Then we saw the Chinese stopping the patrolling rights. Then the Indian side also stopping the patrolling as well. And now it looks like both sides have been able to achieve some kind of conversation on making sure that when it comes to agreement on patrolling is achieved. This is significant, but the big question is how long both India and China will continue to make sure that there is no repetition of what has happened, whether it's Doklam or whether it is Galwan. Remember, history has a way of repeating itself. In 2017, we saw the BRICS Summit happening in Xiamen in China, and ahead of that, we saw a closure on the Doklam crisis, and thereafter the Indian Prime Minister traveling to China. Similar development this time around. This time, of course, the venue is different. It is Russia, and both the Indian and the Chinese leaders are going to meet after a gap of almost 4.5 years in terms of a formal bilateral. Remember that both the leaders have met informally in terms of small conversation, whether it is last year's BRICS Summit in Johannesburg or whether it is the Bali Summit which happened earlier, the G20 Summit. So small conversations look like to have now made into a full-fledged bilateral, which of course it's a pretty positive indication. India and China are two large countries in terms of geography, in terms of population, in terms of economies, and both countries working together is a positive development for not only the people of these two countries, but also for the wider world.
Thank you, Siddhant, for your invaluable inputs there. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.